Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon and Tony. Did you read about this cardiologist who allegedly skipped out on a $135,000 strip club bill?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Read about it. You know how long I had to lap dance on this guy?
That sounds like a long, rather depressing weekend to me.
Yeah, well, try 3 months. It's not easy to run up a $135,000 bill, which is apparently going to be adjudicated by a court in Manhattan. That's a lot of money, Wilbon. That's a lot of
guys all over America worried about discovery in this situation, Tom. We don't want to hear it.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Albert Pujols is mashing, Phil Jackson playing mind games with Carmelo, and Drake is lint rolling his pants. But we begin today with a little something I like to call, I believe I had that, the Wizards going to 2-0 in Chicago by beating the punchless Bulls. The Wizards were down by 13 in the third quarter of Game 1, down by 10 in the fourth quarter of Game 2, and they won because the Bulls can't score. Wilbon, did you underestimate my Wizards or overestimate your Bulls?
Neither, Tony. The Wizards here are putting something together as we go. They are improving, they are evolving, and they're going in the direction that your coach and your general manager, when you put these teams together, you want to go in that direction. The Bulls can't get any better without acquisition of personnel, which means they're going to most likely lose this series, and I don't think it's going to take many more games. So I don't think underestimation has anything to do with it. The Wizards, Tony, have figured out when they put Trevor Ariza on DJ Augustine, 6'8" on 6 feet, the Bulls have no way to get into their offense, no way to score. The Bulls had 12 minutes last night with 4 baskets, 8 minutes with no points.
They have no offense. They lost Derrick Rose, who scores 20 a game. They lost Luol Deng, who scores 19 a game. Just to let you know what they do, they can't close games, Mike. Here it is. In the last 12 minutes of Game 1, they got 18 points. In the last 12 minutes, counting the overtime, last 12 minutes, Game 2, they got 14 points. They got nobody that you would be afraid of. And I think a lot of people have underestimated the Wizards because they've stunk for a lot of years. They haven't been in the playoffs for 5 or 6 years. They won 29 games last year, 20 the year before. So why would you think they were any good? You would think they stink, and you would have reason to believe that, but they don't stink now.
No, Tony, they don't. And you know, we talked about this. Bradley Beal, who didn't have much of a first game in the playoffs ever on Sunday, had a really nice game last night.
Yeah.
And John Wall had a good first half. He was you can see them, Tony. They're trying to figure it out, but they're figuring it out. And Randy Whitman has done a really nice job with that team defensively.
They got a backcourt,
they've evolved into.
That's a 10-year backcourt.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, they got rid of knuckleheads like JaVale McGee and your boy Swaggy P and Andre
Blatt.
Right, yeah. and what they brought in was Gortat and Nene and a great late acquisition in Andre Miller. You mentioned Ariza. He and Webster can shoot threes. They're better than the Bulls. They're better.
They're physically better. And when the Bulls let them off the hook Sunday, you mentioned that 13-point lead. What happens is a team that didn't really know what was going to happen, they get great confidence from that. And so last night, even when the Bulls were up 10, you could just sense they couldn't score enough to hold the lead. They undermined their own defense because they can't score.
Can't score.
Even on a night when the Indiana Pacers finally appear to get it together, Tony, they still can't avoid drama. Adrian Wojnarowski of Yahoo is reporting that Lance Stevenson and late-season acquisition Evan Turner got into a fistfight last week. The teammates had to intervene. The two say no punches were thrown, but it seems there was at least a scuffle. And certainly bad feelings between the two exist. Tony, after the win and this revelation, do you feel better or worse about the Pacers?
Mike, if I played for the Pacers or if I coached the Pacers, I would not turn on a television set. Because every time I did, I'm hearing about the fact that my team has collapsed, that my team has fist fights, that my coach is coaching for his job. He might be done in an hour and a half. You know, it is nothing but bad news all the time. So I don't know how, if you play for the Pacers, you can take away anything good, even from a win like this, because you are being bombarded with bad stuff.
All true, Tony. I mean, you take away something good immediately because you won a playoff game and you got it to 1-1. You got to go on the road.
Okay. Against a bad team.
I know that over about a month's time, for a while before you came completely down on the Pacers, you said, okay, wait a minute. You'd say to me one morning, they pulled it out last night. They had a big quarter. They had a big game.
Yeah.
And we've been skeptical. There's reason to be skeptical. They had, I think, a 31-point third quarter last night. and they sort of pushed Atlanta aside. And Atlanta on the road is not a place where you fear going to play in Atlanta and Phillips Arena, or whatever it's called. But, Tony, it's hard not to agree with you here again that there's so much going on. I told you this Evan Turner acquisition was going to unhinge Lance Stephenson.
Well, obviously it did, because they got in a fight. They obviously got in a fight. Here, look. There's a lesson in this for people like the Indiana Pacers, who very early in the season got very chesty about how good they were and what they were going to try and do. When you call for a spotlight like this, and that spotlight gets on you, and it shines bright, and you don't live up to it all the time, it's a disaster, right? You would agree that right now, great that they got a win, but it feels and smells like a disaster.
Are they going to win this series against eighth-seeded under 500 Atlanta?
They'll beat Atlanta. I don't have that much confidence in the next series, no matter who it is.
Okay.
Phil Jackson held a press conference today in which he appeared to lay down the ground rules for re-signing Carmelo Anthony. Now, you would think the Knicks' big advantage for keeping Carmelo would be they could pay him extra money. But Phil mentioned how Tim Duncan took less money from the Spurs, how the Big Three took less money from the Heat. Carmelo has previously stated he would take less to stay in New York, and today Phil said, and I quote, "We hope that Carmelo is true to his word," unquote. Boom. Wilbon, how do you think that's going to sit with Carmelo Anthony?
Well, Tony, not all that well.
Really?
No, not all that well. I think that this is basically Phil saying, we can be fine with you. We can be fine without you. I will figure out a plan. I'll get back to you. And that's been the question for me all along. Everybody's like, okay, does Carmelo want to stay? Does Phil want him? I mean, really want him. How badly does Phil Jackson, who's going to be the architect of whatever it is the Knicks are doing now,
right.
How badly does he want Carmelo Anthony? And I still don't believe we have a definitive answer to that question, but it sort of puts Carmelo on notice. You don't hold all the cards here. We are involved in this decision, too.
This is why they call Phil Jackson the Zen master, because Phil Jackson is now trying to make something out of nothing. He is going public with the notion that if Carmelo Anthony does not take less money, then he's not a team guy and he doesn't belong here. Or Phil Jackson has staked out the higher ground here. If I'm Carmelo Anthony and I hear this, I am out of here. Because wait a second, let me understand something. You want me to take less money and play with bad players? Why do I want to do that?
Well, Phil,
Why
what
exactly?
Phil's saying, Tony, is if you take less money, I'll get you better players. That's what he's saying.
That's not what I'm going to hear if I'm Carmelo Anthony.
Well,
I'm hearing less money. I'm hearing less money.
And, of course, Carmelo can take less money and go to places where he can actually have a chance to win next year.
That's right.
He's not going to have a chance to win in New York next year because the Knicks don't have any more money even if Carmelo takes less.
Phil Jackson has made, essentially, Carmelo the villain in this piece. Phil Jackson is standing there preaching about team and sacrifice, although he's not taking less money, is he? He's not taking less money.
12 mil up front, baby.
But if Carmelo's a man,
total.
he'll take less money.
So you think, it sounds like all of a sudden you think that Carmelo may really walk.
May really walk. I think he should be walking right now. I mean, and I also think it sounds like Phil Jackson doesn't want him, and I know you feel the same way.
Look, I always thought that was a possibility, Tony, and Phil just put it out there today. You know, this is what Phil does.
He's smart. He's smart.
Yeah, he is. He's tough, too. Tony, I'm not sure if the Albert Pujols watch is over or just starting. He had 2 home runs right there in your backyard yesterday to reach 500.
Boom, boom.
That makes him the 26th major leaguer to hit that once celebrated mark, and he's the 3rd youngest to do so. This is his major league leading 8th home run of the season also, which puts him on pace for 65. So, Tone, what's a bigger deal? 500 career or his hot start?
I think we both agree that 500 has been cheapened by all the steroid guys who went way over 500, went to 600 and stuff like that. I think it's the big start. You mentioned he's on pace for 65 homers. It's way too early to talk about pace. But in the last 2 years out there in Anaheim, he's been on pace for like 25 homers. I mean, he hasn't done much. He almost disappeared. If he's back as a hitter, that's the bigger story here because he's 34. He's not 38. He's got 5, 6, 7 years left of productive power hitting if he's back, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know that I go 5, 6, 7. History shows us that 38, 39 is sort of the cutoff there unless there's some illegal substances involved. But naturally, 38, 39 is about the cutoff. So he's got, 4, maybe 5 more seasons, Tony. But I think this year, look, Anaheim, they're still paying people tons and tons and tons of money.
Oh, they spend money.
And I'm sure that Artie Moreno would like to actually have a team in the playoffs to show for all that money he's spending. And Albert Pujols has to get them there. It can't only be the baby-faced kid who's going out and playing every day.
I'm sure you didn't watch this last night.
Season.
I watch every pitch in Nats games, as you know. These were not, it could be, it might be. These were rockets.
These were bombs.
The only thing that kept them in the District of Columbia was the stadium, okay? Because they were shots. Now, how many do you think he's going to finish with? I got him between, like, around 675, 700. I do.
Yeah, north of 650, Tony, but you start to tail off, and he can't have another one of those years where he plays 90-some games and hits 17. That'll hurt him.
Should have seen him. I mean, they were rockets. The coaching opening with the Minnesota Timberwolves apparently will not be filled from within, as Flip Saunders says he is not inclined. Reports have the T-Wolves looking at 3 college coaches. Fred Hoiberg of Iowa State, said to be unlikely. Tom Izzo of Michigan State, who's close with Saunders and is reportedly, quote, intrigued. And Billy Donovan of Florida, who has conceded an interest once again in the NBA. Wilbon, can you see any of these guys taking this job?
You know, Tony, I certainly don't know Hoiberg as well. He's been a part of that organization.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you see ties, and he's a young man. You think, well, is he intrigued by this? You and I both know Tom Izzo a little bit. I don't see Tom Izzo doing this.
Nor
Tom
do
Izzo
I.
is going to go to the NBA. And granted, he's a Midwestern guy. And he wouldn't have to be far. He's not a guy who would say, oh, let me go to the Lakers or the Knicks or the Celtics. That's not Tom Izzo. I don't see Tom Izzo being involved in this. And Billy Donovan maybe because he's talked about being intrigued. But the Minnesota Timberwolves, really, this is all that is it just college coaches they're looking for now, even though these guys are big-time college basketball coaches? And why? Why is it that a guy like Flip Saunders, who knows the league, who's been successful in the league, would only look for a college coach?
Because it's glamorous. You look at guys who are doing well in the league, or maybe former assistants at San Antonio, or the guy in Charlotte, or the guy in Portland, you know, that are not big-name guys, but they've done very, very well this year. And you wonder why you would go after a college guy, and you'd go after a college guy to fill the seats. Look, this is a bad job. It's a bad job. They never make the playoffs, and their best player, Kevin Love, might go at any time. So why would Tom Izzo, why would he want this job? Why would Billy Donovan, who was in Orlando for an hour and a half, but lives in Florida, why would he go to Minnesota? You see the TV show Fargo? Do you think Minnesota looks that good? Because it doesn't. This is a bad job.
Tony, it doesn't have to be a bad job. In the NBA, you're always one draft pick, a lottery pick, a look at us, we're picking number 1, from it being a much better job.
What if they lose Kevin Love?
The Timberwolves have been to a conference final, but only once.
What if they lose Kevin Love?
Franchise.
What do they have exactly?
Tony,
what?
Can you keep Kevin Love if you bring him a rookie coach who's never coached a day in the NBA? I mean, these are questions to wonder about. It's just difficult to see that being the way that really successful college basketball coaches want to go.
I've been decisive today because I'm on cough medicine that's going to kill me. Let's take a break, but coming up, Vernon Davis says the 49ers must win the Super Bowl. Really?
Hot tea last week, cough drops today. Dude, what is wrong with you? And Drake puts his lint roller to work. Something or nothing is next.
Not cough drops. Cough medicine. It would stop.
Why are you on that? Why are you sick all the time?
I don't know.
Raptors over the Nets. Game 2, something or nothing.
This is something. I'm not sure it's a big something, but it's something. The Raptors hadn't won a playoff game, I think, since 2008. Most of their best players maybe had never even been in the playoffs. And they lost that first game at home to Brooklyn. And that had to get in their heads, Mike, because Brooklyn tanked to get to them. So winning this game is definitely something.
Oh, absolutely something. First of all, winning a playoff game is something. Ask the Bulls right now, because they haven't won one in this series, and they'd love to have something. One is something. And if you're at home and you want to make this a real struggle, and you're thinking to yourself, if you're a guy like DeMar DeRozan, hey, we got a young team here. We look at those geezers over there, and we ought to be able to push them if we can get back into this series. Very much something.
Next.
Yunel Escobar striking out when he probably deserved a walk. Something or nothing.
This is actually a big something because this is insane. They got the count wrong in real time. They went to replay and got the count wrong after replay. He should have walked. They called him out. If you go to replay and you still get it wrong, and I mean, I've seen this about 3 times now. I have no idea what the count is. You cannot get the count wrong. I don't care if it had an effect on the game. This is a big something.
It is. How can you get the count wrong with replay?
I don't get that.
You see people forget stuff. Tony, it's been a lot of years since I played baseball, like high school. But I knew what the count was when I was at bat. How do you get paid this much money and not know what the count is on you? This is unbelievable.
Umpires have those clickers. They should know the count.
The umpire should know the count. You
Nobody
know that
knew.
in Little League, the hitter should know the count.
Awful.
And certainly with replay, the umpires should have the count.
Total
This is
mess.
preposterous.
What's next?
Vernon Davis, tight end for the 49ers, saying San Francisco must win a Super Bowl next season, something or nothing.
This is so much less than something. This is so much less than nothing that it's like antimatter. What is he talking about? I mean, so if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, they should disband the team, or none of the players should get paid. It's fine to want to win the Super Bowl, but to say it's unacceptable to do anything else, it's absolutely nothing.
I'm not going to get worked up over this because nothing said about a pro football season that starts in September, nothing said about that season now is worth a damn. None of it means anything. If somebody asked Vernon Davis a question, I find Vernon Davis very talkative, engaging guy who I know. I mean, it's fine for Vernon Davis to answer a question. I'm not going to rip him. Nothing said about pro football today means anything.
I showed some moxie. What's next?
All right, last one. I know you saw it last night. You've seen it all day. Drake using a lint roller in the middle of a game. Something or nothing.
Honestly, I don't know. I know that Drake is Canadian. I know that he roots for the Raptors. But I also know he's a rapper. I don't really know the rapper culture. Maybe this is a great show of praise for the team if you are lint rolling your pants in the middle of the game. I don't understand that. Wilbon, you know much more about fashion. Do you carry a lint roller in that man purse of yours?
I have a lint roller. It's where it's been since I was 6 years old. It's in my bedroom closet.
Oh.
That's where the lint roller is. That's whatever happened to this? This is now replaced by the lint roller.
He's
so you're
rolling
going
his
to bring
pants.
a lint roller to the game.
Well, does this mean that everybody is going to bring lint rollers and use them during the game from now on?
I hope not. But you know what? I mean, what kind of wool is he wearing? I mean, was he wearing Laura Piana just there?
Is it something or nothing to you?
I don't even understand it, so it must be nothing. But you know what? It's going to be something.
Yes.
Drake did it, people saw it, and now there's going to be 15,000 people in the lower level of NBA games with a lint roller.
In D.C., Wale, your boy, he's going to bring a lint roller. Let's see. Is that it?
That's it.
That's it for something or
Wilbon
nothing.
wins.
Get out of here. Time for a break, but on the way, Johnny Manziel may have piqued the interest of another team in the top 10.
As I said, football talk this time of year is nothing. Plus, the Canadians sweep into round 2 in Wrigley Field. Happy birthday, Tone. 100 years old today.
I got lint rolling going on here.
You're flexing? You're
I
flexing
know.
right now. You're flexing.
I got guns, baby.
Yeah.
Lint roll those. Happy time, people. Happy 54th birthday, Claude Julien. Perhaps the coach of the Bruins was worried when he drew the Red Wings in the first round of the playoffs and when Detroit won Game 1 in Boston. But since then, the Bruins have outscored Detroit 7-1, including 3-0 last night in Detroit, and it looks like the Bruins will justify their overall #1 seed.
I'm going to pull a TK now and say something petty on somebody's birthday. Claude Julien, does he look 54 or 64? Are you sure you didn't miss that first number, Tony? 64
I think I got
years
that right.
old?
I believe I had that.
Okay.
Happy anniversary, Wrigley Field. The home of the Cubs is exactly 100 years old today. Despite all the celebration, the Cubs last won the World Series in 1908. And this pathetic franchise has never, ever raised a World Series banner in its home park. The Ottoman Empire existed when the Cubs last won the World Series.
We don't care what some mean New Yorker says about our ballpark. It's one of the great landmarks in Chicago, maybe the greatest. And you know what? Bears, including Butkus and Sayers there today, in addition to my heroes of Cub lore, Banks, Jenkins, Williams, and others. Happy birthday.
All riding on a unicorn. Happy trails to the Tampa Bay Lightning. First team out of the NHL playoffs, having been swept by Montreal, the only Canadian team in the playoffs. Coincidentally, the last time the Canadiens swept any series was in 1993 on their way to the last time any Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup.
Tony, the league ought to get a boost, I would think, from the Canadians.
Hope so.
You know, being in that series. The league ought to get a boost, hopefully, if the defending champions can even the series here in Chicago.
You picking them?
2-2 tonight.
Are you picking them?
I hope so. Hope they can win even the series. Need the defending champs to continue in the playoffs.
Time to find out we messed up reality.
Tracy McGrady is going to make the opening day roster for the Sugarland Skeeters as a pitcher. That's
him.
being reported at Houston. Tony, I know you made the Fargo reference because you're watching the TV series now,
Yes.
and you're accurate in saying it takes place in Minnesota, not North Dakota. Yep, Bemidji. I was going to ask you if you knew the city's name. You know it.
Bemidji. Big
You
finish.
win.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
The NFL will reportedly use flex scheduling as early as week 5 next year. Do you like that?
Who cares? It's flex, it's scheduling. They're going to play the same teams. It's a matter of what hour of the day. Johnny Manziel is reportedly on the short list of players the Buccaneers are considering with the 7th pick. Good fit?
What about Mike Glennon? I guess he's Shiano's, and he's not the new coach, Lovie Smith. Charleston Daily Mail says Mike D'Antoni will remain as Laker coach, thus out of the running for the Marshall job. Makes sense?
I know it's his alma mater. I can't see him going to Coach Marshall now. Jose Fernandez, 24 strikeouts, no earned runs, his last 2 starts. Best pitcher in baseball?
He's a beast, but I like Verlander. Last one, 3
21.
NBA Game 2s tonight. Bobcats, Heat, Mavs, Spurs, Blazers, Rockets. Who you got?
Heat, Spurs, Rockets. Those are your winners, Tone.
We're out of time. Trying to do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Check out the podcast on iTunes. Bobby Hull. Thank you.
He's your boy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
These days, you can get practically anything on demand, like this podcast. Did you know you can even get postage on demand? You can with Stamps.com. No more going to the post office. No more waiting in line. Just go to Stamps.com and print all the postage you want, anytime you want. Anything you can do at the post office, you can do right from your desk with Stamps.com. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter or package using your own computer and printer. And, unlike the post office, Stamps.com never closes, so you can get postage whenever you need it. Right now, get this special offer from Stamps.com when you use promo code PTI, a no-risk trial plus a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale and up to $55 free postage. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com and, before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the home page and type in PTI. That's Stamps.com, promo code PTI.
The next big thing, the next new kid. The next overnight sensation. The next rookie. One to watch. The next Hall of Famer. The next Intimidator. The next 6-time. The next King. Next. Who's next? Let's find out. Names are made here. The History 300 at Charlotte. Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on ABC.